What's going on, CUT Collective? It's Rev Sheree here. I'm your host for the Rewind today, and I am excited to join with you today. Listen. What I'm asking you to do right now is first to know that you have tapped into a power center. That what we're going to do is rewind on the Sunday sermons from Christ Universal Temple. Today is a kickoff sermon for a powerful prosperity series. It's called Get Your Money Right. And so what I want you to do right now is go ahead and tag some friends. Tell them they need to get their money right. Come on in here. And listen, the cool thing about letting people know that this is happening and they should tap in is that you don't have to tell them about it. It's difficult sometimes when you're trying to recap things for people. So I want to invite you to go ahead and share this out with the people in your community. I appreciate you already for jumping on top of that. And what I want to do is let you know that we are here weekly. This is a weekly podcast, and we are here to share, to help you grow. And this is an extension of Christ Universal Temple. This is the online ministry in action, right? And so I am the director of online ministry for CUT, and I've been so excited that we're in season 2 of the Rewind. And so we've been rewinding on lesson sermons. We've been growing together. And I'm so grateful that this community is active and that you are part of it. So I don't know if you're listening to me live or if you're listening to me on the recording. I count it good. I count it joy. I know that you're right on time with it. So today we're rewinding. Who's in the hot seat today is the Reverend Gaylon McDowell, who has kicked off this lesson series called what is it? The name of the series is Get Your Money Right. The name of the sermon, I'm gonna let him tell it because I botched it a little bit, friends. I botched it a little bit. And so yeah, we're going to talk about planning for prosperity. And I think that is not the name, but we're going to get the name right. Okay. All right, friends. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Rev onto the scene. It's called Plan Your Prosperity. That's the name of the sermon. Plan Your Prosperity. And so we're going to bring them up. And before I do, please make sure you go ahead and share so that we can continue to increase our reach. But without further ado, let me bring Rev up on the scene. Let me bring him on the scene. What's going on?
Hey there. Good to see you, Reverend Sheree. It's good.
Listen, Reverend Gaylon's my friend. You over here laughing at me? You laughing at me?
No. I'm excited about it. I was like, no, she gonna get to that sermon title. You're right. It's Plan Your Prosperity. Plan Your Prosperity.
Plan Your Prosperity.
Yes. So hopefully people got it. I told people in the midst of the sermon, I don't expect to get a lot of the rah claps from this sermon, but it needs to be said. Some of the, yeah.
I mean, there are definitely some lessons where they're gonna be eating this up. They're gonna be on their feet on this one, and then there's some that's like it's gonna be crickets.
Yeah.
But listen. We were all with you because I would tell you that. So something really funny that happened, right? So I host a live room on TikTok. And in that live room, I forget even how it came up, but intention setting. We're talking about intention setting and 21-day challenges. And one of the people in the TikTok room said, "Okay, I'm going to do a 30-day challenge, and it's going to be about prosperity." And that she was going to spend 30 days putting attention on her finances and handling logistics and little system she had set up. And so I said, "Oh, you should listen to the lesson sermon from Christ Universal Temple." And she said, "Oh, I missed it this Sunday. I'm going to listen to it." I said, "Reverend Gaylon, this is right up your alley." And then he popped onto the live, like randomly popped into the live. It was so amazing. But she was still bugging on that later. Like, I can't believe he popped into the live. And so I know that if you're listening, Shamika, she's there. Look at that. Shamika's there. She said, "I needed every word." She went and listened to the lesson. So I'm saying all that to say that, as uncomfortable as it might have felt, it was right on time. And so I think, and I'm saying uncomfortable when you're struggling with your finances, sometimes it's like when you shine a light on it, it feels like a little bit startling. Yeah. And maybe I'm not up applauding about it, but it was exactly what was needed to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I want to give a shout out to those who are joining us live. Thank y'all for being there. Dot, I see you out there getting all the people in the yard. Just go ahead and gather the folk. Tamika, good to see you there. Tamika's been manifesting with us in our manifest program, and I'm grateful to see you. And she got a lot out of the sermon too, Rev. So yeah, it's been a good thing. It's been a good thing. And we're gonna dive in. So this series, Get Your Money Right, is titled after some work that you did. Tell me a little bit about where the series came from.
Well, when in the end of 2024, I had been praying about what was I going to teach in person. Reverend Wells had promised the congregation that we were going to bring in-person classes back because everything, once the pandemic happened, we shifted everything in the Johnny Coleman Institute to the digital on Zoom classes. And I started thinking like, okay, what should I teach? And I'm praying about it. The words "get your money right" came. I'm like, get your money right. Like, that's not a class. So, I was like, it's no book to teach get your money right. It's like, what would I teach? So, I go to my, library of books I have at home. And I saw The Path to Wealth. And I saw the I Will Teach You to Get Rich books. A Path to Wealth is by Mae McCarthy. She's a New Thought author and presenter. And I Will Teach You to Get Rich is from a financial expert, one of the more popular people now. He also has a Netflix special. And I was like, okay, I could teach both of these books and it will do two things. One, it'll help develop the consciousness. And two, it will help people get a system to get their finances in order and to create a process, not only to put it in order, but to be able to get out of debt and create some financial stability and grow their money. So that's what we did. And when I did it, 76 people signed up for the class. So I was like, okay, maybe we have something. Maybe I'm on to something here. So as I'm giving Reverend Wells feedback about the class, and it was crazy how often stuff would show up. I mean, we were having like freezing rain, no snow. All of a sudden, it's just snow like crazy. Just different things were going on. Even had a situation where I had, we've got it fixed now where it was like, oh, I think we're having some of this melting snow coming into the Faith Chapel. Like, where's this coming from? I had to move the class to the bookstore. It was one thing after another, but we got through the class and, people felt as though they got good benefit from it. And that's the main thing. So when Reverend Wells was said he was going to teach a prosperity series in May, originally it wasn't Get Your Money Right, but he liked the idea of what I was teaching in the class. And he said, what if we just did that for a month from the platform? What would that look like? Yeah. And we went with it. So he told me, since you taught the class, you started. And that's what I did.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. So I got a clip I'm gonna play. But before that, I just kind of want to get us all on the same accord with prosperity. So how do you define prosperity? Because we're going to talk about prosperity and your money.
Okay. Well, I did write a definition I used for that sermon. I can pull it up if you want. I mean, obviously, we talk about a rich state of mind, but it's a consciousness that recognizes God as the source of your supply. And because it's a consciousness that recognizes that, it recognizes that everything else is an avenue, a conduit, or a vessel through which prosperity can come to you. However, you have to start off with being in alignment, which I didn't talk as much about really on Sunday, but about how do you get your mind in alignment with the universal good. So, one of the things that we teach people when we say substance is the idea and divine mind of perfect form, all those good, proper metaphysical terms. But I like to simplify it a little bit by saying God is no thing, so God can be anything in my experience. So it's recognizing that through my consciousness, I'm forming and shaping the unmanifested and bringing it into manifestation. I am forming and shaping the unlimited potential or infinite potentiality into a definite thing through how I think, how I feel, what I believe, what I say, and what I do. So from that perspective, I understand prosperity. The end result is money. The end result is the stuff. Prosperity, like everything else, begins in the mind.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important for us to note that it's a subtle thing. And you, as you talked about that the streams of supply, the channels of supply, that we're looking at, the work we do, the gifts we receive as just being channels of supply, but that's not prosperity, in and of itself. That it is a rich state of mind, and so it's something to continue to ponder, because even though I know that to be true, right? I have studied it, I believe it. There are definitely experiences that I've gone through where it's like, job changes, investments that shift. It's like, so I began to say, I'm not feeling prosperous, but really what it is that there's just a channel that has finished its cycle. Right now it's time for me to be open to different channels. So that coming back to that, what I'm getting at is to come back to that definition and remind yourself that prosperity is about your state of mind. It's a rich state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So from that space, because this sermon was highly practical, right? Like that, it's giving principle, but then just extremely, extremely practical. So I'm going to play this first clip and we'll unpack a little bit.
All right.
Let's see what happens. There we go.
If you don't have a financial plan, you need a plan. If you have a plan that you aren't doing, you need to do it. Now, Reverend Ike used to say, you must be definite with the infinite. Your plan is a way of letting God as divine law know that you are seeking to manifest God's good in your life. A financial plan is how you create divine order with money. You need a financial plan, and you need a plan to create a money mindset, a prosperity consciousness, or a abundance mentality.
So here we are, right? I think that there are three things that lots of things, but the three things I think that is important is that this prosperity consciousness, there's a path to it. Mm-hmm. Because to say you have to have a rich state of mind is like, okay, all right, how do I get that? How do I get that rich state of mind, right? And so you gave some very concrete steps to do that. And so you said to create a money mindset, that you have to have a plan to create a money mindset, a prosperity consciousness, or an abundance mentality. So the financial plan. So talk to me just a little bit about what is that financial plan? What's one of the approaches that you shared?
Well, I don't know if you have clips for this later, but when I taught the concept of the financial plan, the idea behind it is really simple. If you don't have divine order in your mind, you can't have divine order in your life. Mm-hmm. And part of having a financial plan is getting your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs concerning money in divine order. For instance, do you have a budget? As I mentioned in the sermon, the very first thing I had my class do as a homework assignment, I literally printed out a zero-based budget. I brought this much money in this month, and this is how much I spent. Why? So they know this is where my money went. Mm-hmm. That's divine order. Literally had someone in the class who had, a couple that, as we were sharing, said they probably spent about $1,000 on Uber Eats. Like, oh my goodness, talking about, well, I don't have money to pay off debt and to invest. Here's $1,000 extra right here, because they were both hardworking, high-level professionals. It's just easier to say, we're here, we don't have something, Uber Eats. Without ever planning and seeing this is where this money is going. Mm-hmm. So that's part of being in divine order. That's one part. The other part of it is building into a system the recognition that having a part of your plan should be an emergency fund. I'm assuming you're going to have a clip on that, which I can talk more about later. But you have to be able to have some cushion in life, because that reduces the stress.
Yeah, Absolutely.
of income. Well, at a higher level of income is an inconvenience. At a lower level of when you don't have an emergency fund, when you have no cushion, then all of a sudden it's a catastrophe.
Oh yeah.
So it's that part. And then the metaphysical part is that I brought up the scriptures about
Don't
God
talk about the
blessing.
scriptures because I do have a clip on the scriptures too.
Okay, I'll let that be then. Okay, all right. So,
But I
the
want you to
idea
anchor
is-
in on a budget.
right, but the budget part is understanding that prosperity is a planned event.
Mm-hmm.
You don't stumble into prosperity. You have to have structure with your finances. You need to know where your money is going. You need to know what you're using with your money, and you need to know what you want to do with your money. And if you are mindlessly utilizing money, then expecting that lack of divine order to be blessed and multiplied is not wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's amazing to me how much people want God to bless mess. And I don't know if you got that clip either, but it's amazing to me because here's the thing. When you get yourself in divine order, it does a few things. One, it allows you to be clearer about what you need to do or not do, because when you're in a chaotic mindset, and money will do that sometimes quicker than almost anything. It reminds me of Reverend Wilmetta, who you've heard me say this many times, used to say, God is not going to shout over your mental noise.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. Two, obviously, when you're in divine order, it's like anything else, there's strength in proper alignment. Like nobody wants to sit in a chair that's, three of the legs are crooked and whatever. It's not divine order. It can't do what it's supposed to do. So money's supposed to be in our lives to be able to bless us, to be able to not only handle our responsibilities, but et cetera, because we're in a society where that means of exchange that we call money is what we use to get the things that we desire in life.
Mm-hmm.
But it can't do what it's designed to do if we're not in order. Money's never out of order. It's sort of like the dog whisperer says, there are no bad dogs, only bad dog owners. It's similar to that. Money's not out of order. We're out of order. So when you get your money in order, it's easier to get other things in order. One of our spiritual mothers, the Reverend Evelyn Boyd, used to say to me often that if you can put God first with your money, you can put God first with anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's always stuck with me because money is a hard subject.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive subject. And getting that budget or that financial plan, however term you like to use, so you are very clear about where your money is going, what you've been doing with your money without beating yourself up, helps you get a structure to be able to build to go forward so you can have something for God to bless.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave that at that because you're going to show the scripture verses.
Yeah. So the thing that I think is important to spotlight and highlight in that is that sometimes we can separate the spiritual aspect of prosperity from the practical idea of something like budgeting, right? I don't need the budget because God is in charge of my finances.
Right,
and what I mean, and I'm giggling at that a little bit because I understand that logic that person may be trying to follow. But what Rev just let us know is that the spiritual power of budgeting is truly divine order. Like you're essentially saying that I'm establishing order in my finances. And I want to, I know that budgeting is one of those things where I don't really need the budget. I kind of keep a mental idea of it. And you look and say, okay, so how's that working for you? Right? Is that mental idea working for you? And here's the thing, I'm talking to Sheree real quick. If your mental budget is working for you, would it work for you if you want to 10 times your income?
Right.
Right. Would you be able to do the mental budgeting, or would you need to put your expenses, your income and your expenses on paper where you can track them, where you can be mindful of those numbers and then begin to work from there? So it may not be, the money you have right now may be what you call quote unquote fixed is this much, 10 times that now. 10 times the channels of supply, right? Maybe right now you're just working with 2, but what if you had 8 channels of supply? What if you had 20 channels of supply?
Mhm.
So the budget, I think, is that that's what really talk about what kind of things that hit you, because I know the system that you're talking about, right? I've been there, I've done that, I worked it, and I became debt free from it. But to hear it again, right, from this perspective of declaring divine order, because I don't manage my budget like I used to when I was on a mission to release debt. You
Mhm.
know, it's a different thing now.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a new space. Let me go back to these same principles and
But you
work.
know what
Yeah,
changed things? This.
yeah, it did. It
Because when
did.
beforehand, when I wanted to go buy something, I had to get up, get in my car, go drive to the mall or the store or whatever. Now I go to the website or go to Amazon or whatever, and I just order what I want. If a person wants food, they don't have to even pick up the phone. They can go on, pay for it, and the people will bring the food to you. So it's easy to get past this. And this is why I'm so dark, because we live in a digital world. It's rare that cash exchanges are happening like they used to. So I'm on my app, my banking app. I'm looking at my debit card. I look at, credit card. Like if I use my credit card, I absolutely pay it off. If I can't pay for it in a month, I don't even use it. I normally, when I use my credit card, by the time it's processed, I'm already transferring money over to pay it off, because I don't want lingering debt, and I don't want to pay interest. I don't want to pay 5 times the amount of something because I'm paying minimum payments on something. I think that part of being in divine order, budget does is, and this is probably the hardest part about being new thought, and a budget forces you to act your wage while you're still seeing a larger perspective.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yes, I need to get this. I need to see beyond my circumstances, um, and I need to manage what I have in divine order.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll just say that if somebody has a
Yeah,
question.
I see the question. I'm gonna pull that question up. I wanted to say one thing about what you said. It just escaped
Yeah,
me. All right, Candace, I'm gonna pull your question up on the screen. She said, "Is there a difference in being rich and being wealthy? I know each book addresses both. Just curious on your thoughts." And the book she's referring to is the path to wealth. And what was the second one?
I'll teach you to be rich.
Yes.
I think it depends on how people use the terms. I think the real question comes into play is this. I would use a substitute word for both. Financially independent.
Mhm.
That's 2 substitute words, not one. Phrase. Financially independent. The real goal for me, at least, in teaching the class was to help people develop a level of financial independence. Because for me, financial independence means that you have a level of comfort that goes along with you knowing that your money is in order. Because I believe just like we have emotional weight concerning other things like relationships and stuff, debt and the stress of debt and the stress of not being able to take care of emergency situations, etc., creates a different energy in your body. It weighs on you. So what a place like Christ Universal Temple, and I think in the New Thought movement in general, was to help people understand that you can use spiritual means in practical ways. That's the
Yeah.
key. Spiritual means in practical ways to create the financial independence that you desire.
Mhm.
So whether, I know some people like wealthy means super rich and rich is just regular rich and all that. I really don't really do that dance. Chris Rock used to have a joke about that. Like Bill Gates is wealthy and Oprah is rich or whatever, or Shaq is rich and the man who signs this check is wealthy. Those are perspectives. I would just like the people and all of us, including myself, to be in a space where money to sustain our lifestyle is not an issue.
And that's not a dollar figure, right? So
Right.
this because remember, prosperity is a rich state of mind, a rich state of consciousness. Budgeting is essentially declaring order around the money exchange experience that you're having. What's coming in, what's going out, and then you can make decisions from that. right? So Rev said to be what is it, in integrity with your wage, to be
Yeah.
to be
Be in integrity with your wage.
yeah.
And I almost said it and I didn't because I didn't want the beehive getting after me, because I was going to say, if you are saying I'm buying this $1,200 Beyonce ticket, for instance, and I'm not knocking her because she's awesome, but your car note's behind and you're paying minimum payments on credit cards and whatever. Because I was having this conversation with somebody and they was like, well, going to it, the concert is an experience. And I'm just like, well, asking people to borrow money is an experience too. And not even be able to pay your minimum payments is an experience too. And having to get on a payment plan for your heat or your electricity is an experience too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So sooner, say, here's what I'm present to. There's always a reason for you to spend money in ways that's not for an experience of something.
Yeah.
Okay. It's always a reason to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The question comes into play is, what do you want to set for your life? Because it's always a reason to go to a concert, to go out and eat. Let me give an example, practical thing. She'll probably laugh at me saying this, but it's not her fault. I got this many years ago from when I was younger, because I often say to my wife, like, when we go out to eat, I was like, yeah, I would love for us just to have a separate ticket and whatever, so we just pay. When I was a young man, I used to go out eat with folks and whatever, and so I'm in my early 20s. In the early 90s, early mid 90s, you're not making money. I'm like a cashier at a grocery store and whatever. And we would go out, and I'm not saying who, because I don't want this to be misunderstood.
I know where you're going.
A person, I would just say, would have, we would go to a restaurant and would order, appetizer just for himself, the biggest meal, the desserts. I don't drink alcohol. 5 drinks, and then start talking. And then when the same time for the bill, they're going over the bill and all of this stuff and whatever. And I'm sitting there looking at this like, are we for real right now? And then people start talking about, we can just split the bill down or whatever. I'm like, I don't split no bills. I didn't drink those 5 drinks. I didn't eat an appetizer by myself. I didn't order a dessert for 4 people for myself. Why am I splitting this bill? So my wife always says, don't do it now. Don't do it when we go places, because it drives me. I'm like, act your wage when you show up at these restaurants.
Yeah.
You can afford to go kick it and buy the 5 drinks and to do the this and to do the that, then fine. And pay your tax and pay your tip properly. Then why are you doing this?
It's so funny because we've all been there, right? There are apps for that now, thank God, right? This is a free commercial for Tab. If you are going out with friends who don't understand how to divide tax and tip together appropriately, Tab will do it for you. All right, but I think that this idea of acting your ways, like, I think what it is like, it's another way people have said, live within your means, meaning live within the money that you have as income. I've shared in jest and very seriously on this podcast that the honor of layaway, right? Back when you couldn't take it home till you could pay for it, right? Like you want that couch, you got to put $100 down and you can pay it on some regular basis, but you didn't get to have the couch that you didn't own yet, right? That you hadn't paid for yet. There's something that's honorable about that. And I think that from a perspective of, we're in this credit phase. You talked about the phone being, being able to tap on the phone, sometimes not even exchanging cash for things like that literal physical exchange can be something to be mindful of, because it doesn't feel like you're really spending anything. So if you are in a space where you're outspending your income, then put some controls in place for how you can just be more mindful about it, right? You may not be able to go hardcore, like I'm only gonna live with the money I have. Maybe your spending is a little bit more out of control than that. So how can you dial it back? You can stop today from spending on your credit card, right? Rev said that if I'm not swiping mine until I can, unless I'm paying it off. I use my credit card for everything though, but I pay it off every month. Like there's a, that's my strategy. I'm real clear about what I'm doing. And so but you find what works for you according to where you are, right? And if I am in a space where I will swipe and I don't know what happened to all my money, why do I owe this much money? Okay, so maybe swiping isn't my way to exchange funds now.
Yeah,
right.
I actually in the I Will Teach You to Be Rich book, it actually says the guy says he does all this stuff because he's trying to get points. And we talked about that as a strategy in class. And I said, for some of you all, this strategy might not work because you don't have the discipline yet.
No.
Because he pays off his card twice a month. It's a fail safe to make sure that he never pays interest for anything and he gets the full benefit. I even had people in the class say, this is what I do to go on my cruises and trips or whatever. So we know the strategy can work, but I also was present to some of you all need to put them away for a while because you haven't developed the discipline to be able to do that with integrity. The real issue is integrity. Do I have a plan? And will I execute this plan in integrity? Because people go over, I see Dot wrote something about people in these proms, which is ridiculous. You know, and it's gotten to the point now to where it's so out of hand, and we're trying to create experiences for people. And just for the record, look, my daughter had a beautiful prom send off and whatever, etc. I get it, but people are renting, Bentleys and Rolls Royces for children. I'm like, this has gotten to the point where it's so out of hand, it's unreal. I don't want to do the prom thing. The point I'm trying to say is this. For instance, if you know prom is coming up, all right, you should be planning for it a year ahead, putting your money even 2 years ahead. One of the things I do, and this is not an exaggeration, I actually start saving for Christmas. After Christmas, I have a Christmas budget that I refuse to go over. Like, okay, I get clear. Who are the people I'm buying Christmas presents for? And obviously, depending on who that person is, they impact my budget differently. But I don't want to get to the point to where it's December now, late November, December, and I'm just pulling out the plastic, trying to pay for stuff. And then I'm looking at January, trying to figure out how I'm going to pay this. And now I'm paying credit card interest on stuff. It makes no sense. So
right. Did I try to get on sale?
Right.
Yeah.
Your spouse or significant other's birthday is every year. It shouldn't sneak up on you. Mother's Day, Father's Day, your parents' birthdays, your children's birthdays, they come every year. It shouldn't have to sneak up on you. I save money for vacation trips. Like if I want to do something, such and such is doing something in Jamaica. Oh, it's a wedding in Dominican Republic. Me and the wife want to go. I already got money set aside for it. And you might say, well, where's this coming from? You got to make some hard decisions. But here's the thing. I like being home. So being ministry, I don't have to be in the streets running around, driving gas, eating this, that, and the other all the time. I don't need all that. But that's me.
And you're making choices for what's important for you.
So when it's time to do it, so you go, and any little extra I pick up along the way of doing something is going right to the budget of something.
Yeah.
That way.
You've given your money a purpose, right? Your money all has it's going and it has an assignment, and that's a discipline to build. I've been on the way other side of that, right? Where I prayed as I swiped, right? I would affirm that God was my infinite supply as I swiped my credit card, and with all the nervousness or whatever, because that was just the level of my awareness at that time, and it was like God's gonna work out this debt. As opposed to let me stop incurring the debt, right? For these purchases that were not critical, and we can dive into that. So I'm speaking to you if the idea of like paying off my credit card every month. But if you don't have a zero balance when you start, then that strategy that lets you know that strategy is not where I am, right? If your credit card's not at zero now. And what I'm going to say is that there's nothing wrong with that, because today we're talking about prosperity. We're talking about the rich state of mind. And then Rev is giving us some practical ways to build ourselves to that rich state of mind. Like, what do I do as someone who is raising their prosperity consciousness, who is opening themselves up to prosperity? The first thing he's saying to do is to pay attention to your input, what's coming in and what's going out. What's coming in and what's going out. Are you aware of that? Are you aware? Because first you got to you don't know what you're doing. Have you guys ever really sat down and looked at all the recurring charges that you may be sending out every month? Like those auto pays and
yeah, people should go through their app. Like, if everybody has access to a banking app now, if your bank doesn't have an app, you need to get rid of that mom and pop store immediately and get with a real bank. And if you don't know how to do it, obviously somebody go to the bank if you have to, or call somebody from the bank and have them, you download it to your phone, you create whatever sign in you need to sign in, and have them walk you through it, or go to the bank and have them show you how to do it. Because here's my thing. I check my app every day. I don't want to, because we live in a society now where digital people can get your card, they can do other stuff. You want to make sure you're being charged right about things. Even something as simple, if I go to McDonald's to get a milkshake, yeah, give me that receipt. I want to make sure they charge me what it costs to buy the shake. Because here's the thing, people make too many assumptions, then they look at the app, oh my God, I got charged for something, or I signed up for something and they put me on a reoccurring and they had no idea. You got to know how to nip that stuff in the bud. And the first way to do that is to get a budget. If you don't know where the hard working money you've earned, or if you're in a different place where you might be on a disability, even more so, you're on Social Security, retirement, whatever, even more so, know where your money is going and stay on top of it, no matter what.
Yeah. And if you're not doing that, then you know that there is a reason, right? Typically, it's some fear about what you'll find in the discovery. So just have the courage to face it, right? Let me just face where it is. That was my big turning point as I'm looking at a mountain of debt, as I'm realizing that I didn't have choice in how I worked, who I worked for, because I needed that money to come in, because I didn't have a surplus, right? So it inhibited my choices, but I had to face it. Right. So I want you to, that's what the budget will do, is that you just face it. Right. It's not a definition of who you are. It's just showing you what your financial choices look like. Right. This is what my financial choices look like up until this point.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a real sexy podcast, Rev. But thanks for this.
Yeah, it's tough. And I'm not gonna lie. I grew up with, my mom would pull that credit card out. We go shopping, my sister and I, and whatever. I know what it looks like. I'm not telling somebody what I grew up with it. I know. And I also know what it's like if you don't manage it the way you need to manage it, especially later in life. When I was born, my grandparents owned 3 buildings, and they were the first people to live in the house they lived in. And my sister and I had we had our own bank accounts with money in it, and some mismanagement that went out of the window, and then some other things, some mismanagement, and those things were sold or lost, or we had a fire, and a whole bunch of stuff just happened. I say all that to say that my grandparents had set it up for my sister and I not to even have to work, and they did all this being 2 Mississippi folks who came to Chicago in the early 1940s.
Prosperity is a rich state of consciousness.
But unfortunately, some things as they got older, and my sister, my sister and I, we just didn't handle it the way. I wasn't old enough to be a part of the conversation of handling it. And I'm not blaming my mom, obviously, or my grandparents, because I had to get what I had to get. But the point of it was they had a plan.
Yeah.
It didn't end up the way they wanted it to be, but they had a plan at least. Okay. With people who my grandfather who didn't get past 6th grade, and my grandmother businesses and the other stuff that they were doing in real estate and whatever, was to be able to create the space to where this is what I want for my child and my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
At least they had a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So I knew that it was possible to be able to do some different things. And to be frank, I remember my dad saying to me, it was your grandmother, my mother-in-law at the time, that taught me how to manage money properly, because he grew up in the projects.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So again, this is like no shame, no blame, no guilt. This is to own your experience right now, right? So so whatever got you to this space, to this conversation, that I'm here to let you know you can do it afraid. You can create a budget and be afraid of what you're going to see, right? You're going to be afraid of, if you're dealing with debt, it's like, oh gosh, how much is it? All right. So debt is debt. If it's $5, if it's $5,000, if it's five, you can keep going, right? We'll keep going. But I do want to encourage you to face it, right? Even if you're afraid. Tamika said, yes, it's fear. And Shamika said that when she sat down to do the work, she recognized a big fear. And I had procrastinated because I was afraid the truth of facing my finances would show that I didn't have enough. That is powerful. Yes, 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 yes. So thank you all for that, for the honesty, for sharing, because we're here to grow, right? Thank you for your vulnerability. I'm going to play this clip because I do want to rewind on the sermon. This is the sermon. This is the lesson. So we're unpacking it properly, but I pulled a couple clips that I want to make sure that I spotlight. And this one is, let me see if this is the one. Yeah, I want to go here. I want to talk about the scripture that you use, a couple of scriptural references. I want to dive into that a little bit. So here we go. Come on, friend. There we go.
Are you asking God to command a blessing on nothing? Let that breathe for a moment. Are you asking God to command a blessing on nothing? It says, again, the Lord will command the blessing upon you in your barn. That means you got something stored. But the prophet Elisha, when he was talking to the widow woman, when she came to him for help, his first question was not, oh my God, what can I do? Or let's pray. His first question was, what do you have in your house? He blessed what she said she had. When Jesus fed the 5,000 men, and that's not counting the women and the children in the wilderness, he blessed what was presented to him, which was from a little boy, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Bread symbolizes divine substance metaphysically, and fish represent ideas of multiplicity. Jesus commanded a blessing of multiplication on what was available. What do you have in your barn? What do you have in your storehouse for God to multiply?
Powerful statements. And this is where Rev talked about the emergency fund and just beginning to have some surplus. And hadn't thought about it this way in terms of the prayer for prosperity and what are you giving God to bless and multiply?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Often people think that creation is always from nothing to something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like even when we use the scriptures that I used, which was Deuteronomy, I talked about Elisha from 2 Kings, and Jesus, all the feeding of the 5,000 in all 4 Gospels. But if you could even go back to Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, in the beginning, God created, heaven and the earth, etc. And then it said the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters, and everything was chaotic and formless. So when creation started, it was creating. It's allegorical, of course.
Right.
It was being created from the raw material. It was raw material to work on something.
Right.
Well, like anything else, if you want the blessing of what? This is why Reverend Coleman would tell us, with whatever amount of money we had, take the wallet, take the purse, take the money, bless it in your hand, bless it for multiplication. Why? But she was trying to get us to shift mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And what people often want to do is they sometimes want to be out of order and have nothing, and then they're praying for something to be blessed. But even Jesus said, and this is one of those hard statements, I wish I had the scripture reference for it. Those that have, more will be given to them.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't have, even what they have will be taken away. And we say, oh, that sounds so unfair, until you understand consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So when you understand consciousness, then you recognize that your consciousness is the conduit through which something is blessed. But here's the thing: is there something to be blessed?
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of uncomfortable parts of the sermon, let's play this one. Let's just keep on going with that one. This one is it's equally unpleasant. But real, like, you know, we got to get uncomfortable if we're trying to break bonds to your current experiences, right? You want something new, we got to trouble the water. So here we go. Here we go. Here is this clip. I think, like I said, it's a hard hitter.
If you can't handle a little bit of money in divine order, what makes you think you can handle an abundant amount of money in divine order? Who would give a 6-year-old child $300 to go to the store to buy some Twinkies? Divine law requires that we master the level of life that we are currently on.
I'm pausing right there. I'm pausing right there. I'm gonna play the rest of the clip, but I just want to give us all a little mercy. just a little mercy real quick. Divine law requires that we master the level of life that we are currently on before we rise to the next level.
Yeah.
Read on that for a second, guys. Let's just be kind to ourselves. I'm gonna play the rest of this. But I just wanted us to stop for a second.
I told you this wasn't a rah-rah sermon. I was like, oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. I might run people out of the church with this sermon, Lord.
I'm saying, it's like, goodness grief. Okay, here we go.
Before we rise to the next level. Oh, this is uncomfortable. I know. Reverend Coleman used to say that life is a school. Remember that? And that until you learn the lessons you need to learn at your current level of consciousness, you will be stuck at that level until you do. She compared it to being too big to sit in a 3rd grade desk chair and how uncomfortable it is to sit in it. Can you imagine being an adult sitting in a desk chair that is made for 8-year-old children? It's uncomfortable.
This comfort, I think, is really key. This is and I think when we sit and think about why our life is not unfolding the way that we want, and that we're constantly pining for that next thing, but you have not mastered. This is it right here. You haven't mastered the level of life that you're on right now. Mm-hmm. That's a whole word right there, friends. That's a whole word.
Really, that's the sermon. Mm-hmm. That one line is the reason why you have to have the emergency fund, why you have to have a budget, why you have to get in divine order. It's the whole sermon.
Yeah.
You know, so that part wasn't freestyle. That was written in my sermon because I wanted to drive home that point, because sometimes you got to get to a point. So what I was trying to do with this sermon, because obviously it'll be 3 more sermons, was to give people the why. Mm-hmm. New Thought, we are hyper specialized in the what. Give people affirmations and denials, give people visualizations, give people, techniques, read this, do this, sit this way, and all this other stuff. The why is divine law requires that we master the level of life that we are currently on before we rise to the next level. That's the why. Mm-hmm. Why should I do all these techniques that Reverend Sheree gives us every week on the Sermon Rewind? Why am I taking this JCI class? Why am I doing the manifest after service on Sunday? Why am I reading these books? Why am I doing this prayer time and this meditation time? because divine law requires that we master the level of life that we're currently on before we rise to the next level. Until you can get in divine order, you will stay where you are. It don't make a difference if your money. It don't make a difference if your career. It doesn't make a difference if it's your relationship. It doesn't make a difference if it's your health. Divine law requires that we master the level of life that we're currently on before we rise to the next level. The challenge with life is once you get to a certain stage in life, you're no longer being graded on your knowledge and application. In school, it's easy to see. If you're taking a martial art, you start with a white belt, then you get a yellow belt, and the blue belt, and the purple belt, and the brown belt, and the black belts. And so you understand this is where I am. But it's easy to fake it because there's no outward measurable to determine where we are in consciousness. Therefore, we have to observe our lives to determine where we are and what level of life we're on, because it's easy to this is difficult for me to say as a New Thought minister. It's easy to fall into the trap that faking it till you make it is a thing. New Thought does not teach fake it till you make it. New Thought teach faith it till you make it. But faith it till you make it does not mean you make irrational decisions that lack wisdom with your money.
That was me swiping at the cash register with an affirmation, as opposed to declaring divine order in my spending and I don't need this purchase, right? I don't need to go on this trip that I'm swiping and praying about, that the money's going to come for it. So this is really key. Now I'm gonna leave it up on the screen because we're gonna close on this amazing point, right? We're gonna all marinate and close on this one because it gives you what to put your attention on. That sometimes we're striving for something for tomorrow or lamenting over something yesterday, as opposed to working at mastering the level we're on right now, bringing our attention and our awareness to the growth opportunities that we have right now. And so you can stop the madness today, right? You can stop it and say, wait a minute, the level of life that I'm on right now, that may be just the whole thing to journal about. What is the level of life I'm on right now? I'm on the level of life financially where I'm on the level of life spiritually where I'm on the level of life emotionally where you could just really begin to sit and explore where you are. Lavelle said, I got more work. Like it is work, but it's worthy work, right? This is how you grow. This is how we're here. We're designed to live healthy, happy, prosperous lives, right? And if you aren't living that healthy, happy, prosperous life, there's mastery that hasn't happened.
Yeah, because one of the things that we need to settle with is, in New Thought, one of the primary things that we have to understand is God doesn't need anything. You might be designed to live a healthy, happy, and prosperous life, but God doesn't need you to be healthy, happy, and prosperous, because God is still God. God is unaffected by your lack of experiencing a healthy, happy, and prosperous life. Now, that might be uncomfortable for some people because they're looking for the supernatural daddy figure to fix stuff for them when they break their toys, without recognizing that we've been empowered to fix our own toys. That doesn't mean that we can't tap into divine wisdom. That doesn't mean that we can't be comforted through God's grace to help work us through it. That doesn't mean that we should beat ourselves up, and punishment is not just cause and effect. There is love in the universe because God is love. But love is not a substitute for being out of order. Love is not, grace and God's love is not a substitute for you not having structure in your life. Divine love is not a substitute for having a consciousness that recognizes that I can't do anything and expect the consequences to be favorable all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so it doesn't make a difference what it is.
Yeah.
You can do a budget on your relationship. Let me see. I'm doing this, and this. I'm not doing this. These are the results I'm getting. Why am I getting these results?
Yeah.
It's no different. What it is simply this. In life, you have to take inventory. Any good business knows that you have to have inventory. All right. And if you're unwilling to take inventory on your financial life, you don't know if your business is in the black or if it's in the red.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it with your money, you don't know. You're just living and existing without dealing with it. And if you're not willing to deal with your impulsive spending, your justifications about why you got to buy this or go here and do that, instead of handling your responsibilities first, if you're not willing to do the work that to help you develop the financial prosperity consciousness, then nothing will change. The beauty of what CUT does is we have created a community. And this is part of the argument that we did not talk about earlier. I gave the argument about why should we talk about money in church, which is important. Okay.
Yep.
Because this is a place where we can talk about it with integrity, and you can learn how to tie your wonderful spiritual oneness with God with what you need on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
That makes a difference. There are not a lot of places that do this, especially at the level we do it. So all I'm asking people to do is this: get the books, listen to the sermons, follow the guidelines that we're giving, get an emergency fund as soon as you possibly can, at least a temporary one, so you can create some cushion in your life, and follow the process through. If you're willing to follow the process through, it works if you work it. That's what a smart lady used to say all the time. But you'll be stuck in that third grade desk chair, uncomfortable, can barely sit, and that's how it feels when we don't have our money in order.
Yeah. That's that. Thank you so much for that. Candace said this is the series we needed. Thank you for the lesson, Rev. She is absolutely echoing our desires. Like I said, I love principle because you can apply it anywhere. Right. And so where I'm not pointing this at debt, I'm pointing this at my mastery of the next level. What's the mastery of the next level? And that is, what's the mastery of this level rather, so that I can move into that next experience. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity, the conversation. Thank you all for the engagement today. It definitely is clearly a space where we all have some opportunity to grow. This mastery of life, this is where you get to have the practice ground for that, the community for that. And so I'm grateful for those of you who are able to walk through the doors of Christ Universal Temple, dig in and really, really grab on and embrace that community that's there. We have a program called Manifest that is really about bringing the community together and beginning to work. This series is working affirmations for consciousness transformation so that your life can change. But online too, we also have this is a community that we're all a part of, right? And so thank you for being here for the rewind. The manifest for the online community I'm leading, and you can go to manifest.cutemple.org to register for that. If you're not a part of it, it's not too late to jump into that. It's a 4-week program, and we're going to have other iterations of it. So no worries if you didn't tap in. Also, Rev is getting ready to hit the road. So we're talking about community and consciousness building. There's power here. There is some place where you're being fed a story that's not true about you, and you need to tap into communities that are based in truth. Here we are. You got it going on right here. So Rev, tell me about what's going on. Where are you feeding the community next?
Okay, well,
outside of CUT, I should say.
Outside of CUT, because I was about to say I'm also preaching on May 18th. In this series as well. So outside of that, obviously, besides my podcast, Truth Transforms, which is every week on mindbodyspirit.fm, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, I'll be actually Up Church, Understanding Principles for Better Living Church. What's the website for that? Upchurch?
Upchurch.org.
Upchurch.org. I'm teaching the power of what is it called? Mastermind for Success. My brain is on this, what we're talking about now. Mastermind for Success on May 24th, which will be at 2 p.m. Pacific time at the church in Inglewood. It's in person and online. You can go to their church and register for the seminar. It's only $20. I'm going to be teaching about how to use collective consciousness to create greater prosperity and success in your life. All right, or healing, whatever it is. How do you use collective consciousness for that? So that'll be that. And
Let me stop you. So that is so in order to register for that experience, Up Church is based in LA. That's my church out here. And so the in-person experience is at 8722 Crenshaw Boulevard in Inglewood, California. Online, you can go to both go register at upchurch.org. You can register for the experience in person or virtually. So definitely encourage you, if you're in the LA area, to go and listen. Rev is gonna be in town, right? So you get to go and experience him. And then that following Sunday, so we're talking about May 24th and the 25th.
Yes.
The 25th, he's coming with the word here in the LA area. So come on and be a part of that. We're celebrating Reverend Sheree James's pastor's anniversary. And so he's delivering the lesson sermon.
Yeah, and that Sunday, the sermon will be the manifestation process.
So, bringing all that hardcore up in here in these LA streets.
Hey, half hardcore metaphysics will travel.
I love it.
And also in the Johnny Coleman Institute, we have classes that are coming up beginning in for 4 weeks, starting on May 19th. I'm doing an in-person class, though. I'm doing a recap of the Get Your Money Right class with my students. Anybody's still free to join the class if they so desire. But what I wanted to do was give them the opportunity to put the process in. I obviously had good testimonies in the classes people shared, but now we've had a little time off. People will be able to put all the systems in place, because it was a system that was supposed to be put in place by all the students. And now this will give me an opportunity to beta test what we're doing, because I'm going to teach the class again in the fall for a full semester. Because I think I've spiritually bumped into something, a core need in the community, because when it's all said and done, people can't even give and support the things that really matter to them when their money's out of order.
That's it.
So I want to help people get their financial integrity back, so they can feel fulfilled and satisfied. They can support what they believe in. They can have the convenience of comfort when it comes to the tire blew out, or the hot water cooler went out, or the furnace went out, and now all of a sudden it's, oh my God, will the credit card company or the HVAC company even approve my credit to get a new furnace? I want people to be removed of that stress. That takes time off of your body. You feel that energetically in your cells. It takes something from you.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to be free of that. So how do we do it? We get real systematic, because at CUT, we know how to put things in divine order, walk people through the structure, and help people get the results they want. As I often tell people, if you want to get better, hang out with us. But here's the thing. We're not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. But if you're willing to follow the directions, you can get better results than you've previously received. And you'll get the spiritual enlightenment that goes along with it, which is priceless. All right. I guess that's pretty much it.
There's lots of wonderful consciousness building activities going on through the ministry. One of the things I don't do often enough, and I will say this today, is that if you are in the Chicago area, Christ Universal Temple is located at 1901 South Ashland Avenue on the south side, and the doors are always open to you. It's a powerful, loving community. When I'm able to be in town, I enjoy myself immensely there. And so you're welcome to go and be in the house, or you can watch the services online, exactly where you are. If you're on Facebook, they stream on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, it streams on YouTube, right on that same channel. Right. And so I encourage you to join in and tap into the community. I am the director of the collective, the CUT Online Ministry. And so, hey, we're in the right place with each other. And so there is a community for the collective on Facebook. And so I am grateful for today. Thank you so much, Rev, I know we went over time. This was a powerful conversation. Clearly won't be the last one that we have around this as we move through the series, Get Your Money Right. So I encourage you all to be wonderfully blessed. We are going to have an amazing experience unpacking this lesson sermon. When I'm back on with you all, we are all going to be ready we're going to have faced that fear, because today is the day. We're going to have faced that fear and move through with clarity so that we can master the level we're on so that we can move to the next level.
Yes.
I'm grateful for you all. God bless you all real good. We'll be back with the rewind talking more about get your money right. God bless.